All right, hi guys, I'm back. My voice is finally getting better. It's not all the way better, but I'm gonna try to make it through this video. And in this video, I want to talk about the winter storm that's going to be coming across the United States this week. It could potentially impact the Ohio Valley, and so that's what I want to talk about. Before we get into that, though, I want to remind you, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can click on the subscribe button right down at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And also, I'd like to encourage you to join my pro site. On that site, you're going to get a lot of extra information about the weather of the Ohio Valley. You can join at www.patreon.com/Ohio Valley Weather. All right, well, this is the weather map from today. And you can see out here on the West Coast, we have this area of low pressure that has moved in out here. And this is going to be making its way across the United States over the next few days. You can see right now it's trying to cross the Rocky Mountains, and that is going to give the system some trouble, going to weaken it a bit, but there is going to be a good deal of snow out there across the Rocky Mountains. Now, that system, like I said, is going to track across the United States. And I thought I'd show you this map. It makes it a little easier to understand what's going on. Over here in the east, we've had this high pressure system, and this high pressure system has been drawing warm air up from the south. And so for several days now, the Ohio Valley and the eastern United States has been experiencing warmer than normal temperatures. But this low pressure system that I just showed you on the previous map, it's going to work its way across. And you can see this is Wednesday. And by Wednesday, you see we get a pretty strong low here, centered right over South Dakota or Nebraska border there. And you can see the closeness of those isobars. This is going to be a windy system. And behind it, this is pulling in Arctic air. This is really going to flip the switch back to winter for most of the United States as this thing crosses. And really, this whole area on the north side of this low up here, this is really going to be blizzard-like conditions. They're going to get a ton of snow, blowing winds. It's going to be quite a snowstorm. But I want you to notice on this map what is starting to happen by Wednesday. You notice right in here, let me outline this for you here. Right in here, we're starting to see that the front, the cold front, is becoming an occluded front. So an occluded front happens when a cold front catches up to a warm front. You can see the warm front out ahead of it here, and there's the cold front essentially catching up to it, becoming an occluded front. Once you have an occluded front, that normally means that this system is weakening, or in other words, really dying. And it will a little bit, but we're going to see that this system is going to re-strengthen. All right, now let's look at what happens by the next day as we move on. Here we are Thursday. And here again, you can see that occluded front with a little bit of a warm front coming off of it. Right along this warm front, and you can see it's crossing right over the state of Ohio. That warm front is going to be the boundary between the warm air and the Arctic air to the north. And so as this thing crosses, you're going to see this transition from initially rain. And so the Ohio Valley, definitely by Thursday, I'm expecting to see rain. But as this system moves across, that rain could be meeting up with the colder Arctic air, especially in northern Ohio. And so this is going to be a tricky forecast. There could be rain, there could be freezing rain, there could be sleet, and of course, yes, there could be snow. But notice that the isobars are not quite as tight here now. The system by Thursday has definitely weakened. But notice the other thing here is we're starting to see a secondary low develop along the cold front down here in the south, right over Georgia. And so over the next couple of days, what we're going to see is that as the initial primary low weakens, the energy is going to transfer to this secondary low, and this secondary low is going to really just end up being a nor'easter here for the eastern United States. Okay, so now let's get back to this. Now, this is the GFS model map for Thursday morning. And you can see by Thursday morning, you have this low over Michigan, and we're getting a lot of snow up here in Michigan, mostly rain across the Ohio Valley, but notice starting to get some signs of maybe some freezing rain and maybe even some snow into Pennsylvania. Again, the Ohio Valley is going to be the transition zone. This is going to be a difficult forecast as we're going to be right on the line between the rain and the snow. And you notice down here in the Carolinas, this big area of rain, that's where that secondary low is starting to develop. Now let's move on to Friday. Now you can see by Friday, we have the two lows. The first low is now centered up over Wisconsin, and the second low is now just off the coast of Virginia, right around Virginia Beach. And by Friday morning, central Pennsylvania is going to start seeing some significant snow. In here in eastern West Virginia and Maryland, there's going to be some freezing rain. Further south, it will be all rain. But so what's going to happen from here is these two lows, they're so separated now that they're going to essentially, at least for a while, work as two separate systems. And so now the secondary low becomes the stronger one. And this is really going to ramp up some snowfall here for central Pennsylvania into New York. And this low is going to move up the East Coast. And so the New England states all the way up into Maine, they're going to get some serious snow starting Friday and through the weekend. But if we go back to this primary low is now essentially going to become like an Alberta Clipper for the Ohio Valley. It's going to come across the Great Lakes, and as it does, it's going to generate lake effect snow, which will affect much of the Ohio Valley into the weekend. At least that's the way that it's looking right now. Here we go into Saturday, and you can see what I'm talking about. We're getting some heavy snow up into upstate New York, up into Maine, more freezing rain possibly in there. But here comes that the first low coming across the Great Lakes as an Alberta Clipper, and you can see it's pushing snow into Ohio, and that's going to go through the Ohio Valley, and that's going to continue through the weekend. Now, I mentioned the freezing rain. This is based on the Canadian model. All of the models are showing some freezing rain and generally in the same area. The biggest risk for freezing rain is going to be in eastern West Virginia, across the state of Maryland, and into western and central Pennsylvania. Now, this is certainly all going to change a little bit over the next few days. But generally, that area being shown here is where you have the biggest risk of freezing rain. And you can see there could be some impressive amounts here. Down here, even into Virginia and West Virginia, we're looking at possibly an inch or more of freezing rain. And those of you that have seen ice storms before, you know that an inch of freezing rain is bad news. That's going to be bringing down tree limbs. It's going to bring down power lines, and there could be significant power outages across this area that's shown here. Now, what about the snowfall? So if we look at the Ohio Valley, This is the based on the GDPS model, which is the Canadian model, and it goes pretty aggressive for the Ohio Valley, with much of the Ohio Valley getting, say, 1 to 3 inches. Okay, again, I'm not expecting this to be a huge snowstorm for the Ohio Valley, but this could be the most accumulation of snow that we have seen so far this winter. If we look at the GFS model, the GFS model is not quite as aggressive. And if the GFS model is right, then you can see that most of the Ohio Valley would just get a dusting of snow, maybe up to 1/2 inch, with higher amounts across the mountains of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. Now, here's what the ECMWF model is showing. That's the European model. Right now, it represents somewhere in between, closest to the average. And those of you that watch my forecast, you know that that's what I like to do. I like to look at the averages of what the models are showing. And right now, the European model is coming close to the average. And you can see, based on the European model, it looks like locations north of I-70 would be looking at maybe 1 to 2 inches of snow, with higher amounts again across the mountains of West Virginia and Pennsylvania. And notice up here into north central Pennsylvania and upstate New York, we could be looking at over 1 foot of snow from this system. So once again, I hope you liked the video. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Again, you could click on the button there on the bottom right of your screen. And if you haven't joined my pro site yet, I'd love for you to do that. You can join at www.patreon.com/Ohio Valley Weather. Thanks for watching.